Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Morning Show, the top morning show in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines and to provide some actual insight into what we can do with all this information. We're only going to break down one article today. I got one of my really, really good friends back on today because, frankly, I'm sick and tired of talking about just the problem out there, and we got to come to solutions on some of the core issues in this industry. And there is no better person equipped for this conversation today than himself, and I will be bringing him on here shortly. If this is your first time listening, welcome. This is the real side of freight. We're all about solutions. We're all about keeping people in business. And frankly, it's one of the many reasons why I proudly fly this American flag behind me every single day, because I'm living my American dream. I want to help each and every one of you live your American dream as well. Got to give a shout out to my friends over at VHub, you guys. They are the ones who make the show possible every single day. And it doesn't matter if you're a broker, carrier, or shipper. We all need access to trailers at some point in time. And furthermore, right now, with everything that's, fuel isn't going to go down anytime soon. You should never have to shut your operation down because your trailer's in the shop. And the best part about this, you get paid to do this, you guys. So what they're working on right now, Delta, Paragould, Arkansas to Delta, British Columbia, you get paid $1,850 to move that. That is on top of the freight that you can load out in the back of that trailer. And then they also have San Diego, California going out to Millbury, Ohio, and you get paid $600 to do that. Again, that's on top of the freight that you can load out in there. So hit them up, you guys, vhubapp.com. My friends Xavier Campos and Stacy Steen, they'll be in the audience here today. And just do me a favor, you guys, let them know that the Freight Coach sent you. All right, we're going to jump in. I'm going to bring my guest up. He was just on last week, but there's never not a bad time to have him on. Mr. Adam Wingfield is back today.
Hey, what's up, sir? Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, man. Happy Tuesday to you as well. How's life, man? What's going on? What's new out in the carrier world?
Man, life's amazing, man. Of course, there's some new news that, kind of, opened up some eyes when it comes to the new FMCSA guidelines. So, the last couple of days been really, really educating folks on that and getting people in the right order for it. But diesel fuel still where it's at, truck prices still where they're at, spot rates still where they're at. So it's really a matter of really just educating folks on how to kind of sustain themselves.
Yeah, man. Fuel is at $5.23 a gallon national average as of this morning. And yeah, man, it's crazy because like I was talking about this yesterday about how like there's not a set fuel surcharge that's out there. Like every shipper is different. And I was always like, I wish if there's somebody out there who can answer that, I would love to know, because I don't know the answer on why some shippers are at like 80 cents a mile and some are at like 20 cents a mile. Like there's a big disparity that's out there. And I've always wondered how they calculate that. What is it? What percentages are they taking off of it?
They get too much locus control in the beginning anyway to say, hey, this is all I'm going to pay. And I'm just going to be blunt. I'm just going to be real. I wish I could, tell UPS this is all I'm going to pay you guys to ship my Amazon products. But, that's a totally different conversation. But, to your point, there is no consistency. There's no standards. It should be a standards across the board when it comes to, standardized surcharge. And I agree to that. It's just we got some work to do. And I think it starts with awareness.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you. Awareness. There's so much awareness that needs to be brought up there, because it's like, I don't know, man, 2 years ago when we first met, it was very similar to like what's going on right now with, the rates being what it is. And then it spiked up and nobody was complaining about anything because everybody was making money. And then now we are back in that market again. And it's, to me, like, cyclicality of the industry. Like if there's one word that could describe trucking in a nutshell, it's cyclical, I think. And, the highs are high, the lows are low, but it's like, they're not as extreme as like what information is put out there, because it's like, if you're looking at, like I think I saw minus fuel, the national average for drive-in was at like $1.78 a gallon. And then with fuel, it's at like, I think I wanted to say it was like $2.30 a gallon or something like that, national average across the board on that. But like, I know personally there's loads that are moving for a lot more than that. that are out there in the dry van world. And there's also, unfortunately, some dumbasses who post $1 a mile out there as well.
I think that when I think about you came with one word, cyclical. I think my word is haymaker. And I think the reason why I say haymaker is just because the one thing that we don't do in the trucking industry on both sides is turn the other cheek. It's always a haymaker. It's like, you as a broker, I'm the carrier. I'm going to throw my haymaker and you're going to fall backwards. You're going to get up, you're going to throw your haymaker. I'm going to fall backwards. But at no point do we just say, hey, you know what, let's stop and let's sit there and let's figure out how we can work better together at this. It's the shipper has its own market. The broker has their markets. And then you got carrier markets and you got carrier dynamics, and it's always a back and forth. So right now, kind of like what I've been talking over the last couple of weeks, like right now, as a carrier, you're getting hit with your haymaker, but this isn't the time to pull back and get ready to throw your haymaker. Somebody's got to stop the process and really start building relationships and developing relationships so that way we can move this thing in the right direction. Because this is what you do during the slow season is what's going to come out to you in during the busy times. And you got folks that, average driver, and I think the NTI, the National Truckload Index right now is 251 or 252, right? So that's what it's nationally. Everywhere you go, national average 252. I look back 10 years ago, and we're talking about sub $2 a mile freight. And so the thing that I realize is that, and everybody should realize, is that number one, freight, it's all lane specific, and you got to get really good at predicting your lanes. You got to get really good at positioning your trucks in lanes. And when those lanes when that capacity in those lanes starts to loosen up a little bit, then you need to move out and move into a different lane. You can't continue to run the things that you run. Chris, I was having conversations with a couple of owner-operator groups, and they're still talking about, hey, I just want to be in the Southeast during the summertime. During the winter. But you got to get out of that, man. It's like that is like asinine at this point, right? Because if you look at it, where everybody wants to go during the wintertime is in the South, right? Everybody wants to stay away from the weather, which I can totally understand, but don't complain when rates are bad in the Southeast during the cold and the winter times because you don't understand the dynamics of what your additional truck is doing to that marketplace. So it is a supply and demand, but at the end of the day, this industry is a haymaker, and that's all it's about. And it's all it's been about for, as long as I've been in it. We're going on a quarter of a damn decade, but as long as I've been in it, it's always a haymaker.
You've been in it longer than you've been in it 20 plus years, man. What are you, quarter of a decade?
Century. I'm sorry. Quarter of a century.
I got you. April Monroe, good fucking morning. Thank you for joining. Zach Williams, good morning, everybody. Let's fucking go. You are right, man. If you guys want to become a freight agent, jump over to SPI and hit up Zach Williams. He can help you out with that. Bob, what's going on, my man? Good morning, everybody. Richard Walton coming in from Bowers Trucking and Logistics. I appreciate all your guys' support out there at Bowers. You guys are on all the time, man. And Sonny Sharma, good fucking cold. Okay, you're in California probably, Sonny. So what's cold to you? 65, 70 degrees? Orange Shirt Gang is in the house. So the article we're going to talk about, and this is kind of going to tie it all in, and this is the only one we're going to talk about today because when I saw this, I knew that we had to break it down because it is talking about the, because it's from ttnews.com and it's some owner operators return to fleet as spot markets soften. And we don't need to break down any like the points of this article because it's going to be a lot of what Adam and I are talking about, how people come in when the market's hot, they leave when it's slow, they come in and then the cycle continues, like that haymaker approach out there, and I see it too, man. And I tread lightly on some of the groups about engaging in some of that stuff that's out there because, I feel like a lot of them are just upset with where things are. I don't know. Like I don't think there's that many people who like fucking despise brokers as much as like the drivers want to say it. And then just like the brokers wanted to say the exact same shit about drivers and carriers. There's not that many people they do, but unfortunately that echo chamber gets going. And then it's like 5 to 10 people essentially that are just fucking going back and forth about how it's this person's fault and this person's fault and this person's fault. When in actuality, you got to look in the mirror. Like, what are you going to do differently?
No, I think that the thing about it is that you said look in the mirror, and the one thing that I always believe is that this industry is so full of people that point fingers that nobody wants to look in the mirror and say, hey, this is what I can do to control and do differently. And like one of the biggest components is, when I took a look at that article, And one of the things that stood out to me about the article was like, hey, you know what? A lot of owner operators are choosing to go back to, to do things like lease on with other carriers to kind of like give me that whole save me approach. I'm going to run under, I'm not going to even call their names out because I don't want to give them that pub, but I'm going to run down to, carrier A, B, C, because they're going to give me this fuel surcharge and I'm going to be able to run with this. I'm not going to have to worry about insurance and things like that. At the end of the day, if you really, really go down to the bottom dollar of it, you really do your math. At the end of the day, it's still almost coming out apples to apples. And one of the things that I'm going to tell you is that if I'm going to get in business and I'm going to have 100% of the liability, then you best believe I'm going to have 100% of the reward as well. I've never been a big fan of it, and I understand the reason behind it. But the positioning behind a lot of the points in this article was like, you know what, everybody really just, follow us. Let's just turn in the white flag and let's just get up under it. So when you think about that, the biggest thing is that energy never goes away. It just moves. It's one of the old science adages. It never goes away. It just repositions itself. Same thing with capacity, man. The capacity is not going to move. It's just going to reposition itself.
Yeah. And, because it's, again, one thing that, and I've been talking about this a lot, man. A lot of the things that I like, the main core reason why I do this show every single day is because like it's what this article is lacking, and that's substance on what somebody can do. Like what can somebody do right now? Because it's, I look at it like this, my dad was an owner op for 40 years. I've been around that side of the industry my entire life, and that's one thing that I see that it's always lacking substance about what a driver could do to not sell their business or sell their truck or go take that truck and lease on, give up their authority and everything else. And, to me, it's always about like, what's crucial step number one? I always think of it like this, in my business right now, if we're going to compare apples to apples, I have a balance sheet, I have expenses, I have money that I have to cover every single month to be able to stay in business. And I know my costs. I know what my overhead is. I know my number that I have to hit. Now, granted, I don't have a fluctuating fixed cost. I call fuel a fluctuating fixed cost because it's going to be there. It's just not the same price across the country. But it's knowing what, and then talking to you about your point about, if you're only going to run, the Southeast and in the South, and stuff like that. It's like it's having that region built out, I think, is so key. And there's a lot of similarities between brokers as well. And because I see a lot of it from the broker community about, hey, I don't know how to build my book of business. I don't know what to do. And my first thing is stop chasing markets. All right, because there's enough people out there that go after, like it's Christmas tree season right now. Everyone's going after Christmas tree shippers. Everybody's going out there chasing markets. There's no concrete business plan that they're going off of. It's like shiny object syndrome. They're going all over the place, where it's like, if you have identified a couple of core areas that you can run in, again, I think you can find that profitable freight that you're looking for, regardless of the freight market. Because I know damn well that there's shippers out there who do not pay attention to what a lot of this stuff is, because they pay a lot more than that, because freight sitting on their docks doesn't do them any good.
I think, to your point, Jolly, and what I want to do is I just want to give folks, I want to take that article and I'm going to give them what the article is missing, right? I want to give you what you need to do. I think the first thing you need to absolutely, number one, more than anything, and, they're going to hate to hear this, but slow your truck down. The thing about it is that your truck itself, anytime that you're moving that 80,000 pounds over 68, 69, 70 miles per hour, you're reducing your fuel efficiency by double-digit numbers. Slow that thing down. Get that truck operating right at 64, 65 miles an hour. You'll never be on the highway passing the Snyder truck. You won't pass the Swift truck. You won't pass the JB Hunt truck, and that's by design, because they understand that not only do they buy fuel and discounts in bulk, right? So they're getting discounts there. They're getting fuel surcharges, but they're also slowing the truck down. So fuel is going to be something that they're not going to worry about. Our small carriers don't do that. Our small carriers, unfortunately, are left lane gang, right? They're in the left lane, hammer down, running it out 75, 80 miles an hour. But you're sucking fuel down at a rate of 4.5, 4.6, 5 miles per gallon, which obviously that's going to kill you. I think the second thing too, man, you got to improve your CSA scores, right? Because your CSA scores are one of the things that when I look at it, if I'm a broker and I've got carrier A versus carrier B, I'm going to go with carrier A that's got the better CSA scores, right? I'm not going to go with the carrier that's always going to be at showing that, hey, you know what? My out of service on equipment and maintenance right now is about a 45%. So that tells you, Mr. Broker, that anytime I book freight on this particular carrier, the likelihood of him getting pulled over and put out of service is almost half. So I might need to pass on you because I got a critical shipment I got to get to my customer and I can't afford to mess that relationship up. Improve your CSA score, carriers. Make sure that you on time pickup and deliveries. Make sure you over communicate. So that takes me to our next point. It's time for you to improve your communications. Over communicate, improve those relationships with those brokers because word will get around. Word gets around in a variety of different ways, and it will get around. People talk in a variety of different platforms. So making sure that they're doing that. The next thing, you negotiate everything. And when I say negotiate everything, when it's time to do your factoring deals, redefine print. Stay away from those deals that are going to get you into trouble in the long haul. You'll have factoring companies that'll come out there and say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you 0.99%. We're going to give you 1%. But come to find out that 1% is on a full recourse deal. And then if you do business during these particular times where brokers are getting lower in cash flow, especially with the smaller brokers, when you do business with these brokers and all of a sudden their credit range change, now that recourse deal is going to put money in, pull money out of that reserve, and now it's going to affect that cash flow for you. So be very, very careful of that. The thing is, too, this is the next point that people don't want to hear, but if you need to scale down, scale down. It's okay to lean up during those times. A lot of companies do the same thing. Larger companies, they scale their fleets up when the need arises, and they scale the fleet down when it needs to do so. Don't be afraid to scale down, and don't be afraid to do that, because what that does is it provides you with a better business structure, and you're operating a lot leaner than you should. The thing also, too, man, is every line item within your break-even points, and a lot of carriers don't even know what that is. Your break-even point is not $2 a mile, right? You got to stop thinking like that. You got to make sure that you understand what that break-even point. If you need a break-even calculator, go to our website, and you can get the best break-even calculator on the market. I will tell you, too, is that even though you say diesel prices at $5.23, you can save 80, 90, $1 on a gallon of diesel fuel if you have the right fuel card and have the right fueling strategy. Don't fuel like you're going from home to Disney World. You got to fuel with a plan. You have to have a fuel plan. And before you even turn that truck on, you have to have a trip plan in place where you're maximizing the amount of diesel fuel that's remaining in the tank. And on top of that, you're selecting the stations that are most cost efficient to you. There are two things that drive fuel costs. It's consumption and selection. That's it. How much I'm consuming and the type of stations that I'm selecting. Our owner-operator family out there and our fleet owners out there, we got to do a better job at selecting the better stations, right? And we got to consume less fuel, right? So when I look at that, you got to stay on top of your maintenance. That brings us to my next point. You got to be on top of your maintenance, to your point that maintenance cannot be repair-based or breakdown-based. Maintenance should be scheduled and interval-based. I need to be scheduling maintenance. I need to have that ahead of me.
Do you know what the breakdown is of the preventative maintenance on what that can save you by scheduling that out, as opposed to, like, I know you can't like eliminate breakdowns because that shit happens, but like, is there any breakdown? And if there's not, I think this is a good opportunity for somebody to break that down, to show the proof of preventative maintenance and scheduling that around your downtime and stuff like that. So you can come in and then you can keep running more.
Well, I can tell you this: pre-trip inspections and preventative maintenance reduce downtime and reduce repair costs. Period. 100%.
Yeah.
Because you'll catch something in the pre-trip inspection, or you catch something in the preventative side that'll save you from a major repair. Let me give you an example, right? So you've got this thing on your newer tractors. It's called a doser. It's a 7th injector. It's part of the DPF system, right? Yep. You're supposed to have that replaced every 250, 300,000 miles or whatever. Okay. The thing about that particular valve and what it does, or that injector, what it does, it sprays diesel fuel into the actual exhaust system for it to go through its recirculation process. So it's part of the whole DPF experiment that we don't have time to break down, but I'm just going to anyway. So when that thing overworks, it's like almost like an overreactive thyroid. So it's overspraying diesel fuel in it. So now, number one, it's burning up extra diesel fuel that you shouldn't even be burning out. But eventually, when that thing goes out and you got a bad doser valve, it can cause that particular truck to go into D-rate. What happens when that truck goes into D-rate is that truck starts losing power. Then it goes down to 5 miles an hour, and you have to get it either towed to a shop, or you're going to have to limp it to a shop somehow. Now I've got downtime. There's shops out there that can't even get me in for a week. They can't get me in for 2 weeks. What is that going to do for me as an owner operator? Where I don't have a truck that I can operate on 2 weeks, and I don't have the cash reserves to get a rental truck to help me get me by. I can't afford to sit down. I got to make money. So the things about it is maintenance has to be proactive, because you got to think of it in mindset is that by me doing this proactively, it's going to prevent me from having those breakdowns in the future. I get it. Breakdowns are not. You know what? There's one thing I tell people that always happens in this industry. I can guarantee you one thing, and it's your truck's going to break down. One of my first trucks that I bought had 9 miles on it and got towed within the first 9 miles of it. It's going to break down. I don't care if you got a new truck, old truck, or somewhere in between. It's going to break down. But the thing that you have to do is you have to lower the risk and you have to mitigate that risk.
Yeah. And I think that's what's key about it. Cause it's like, and that has, a lot that has nothing to do with like sales. That has nothing to do with getting shippers, but like your point there. And I think, from a broker's perspective, your point on communication is key, because like, again, I won't wear people out because, man, I've done that. Like, I know it doesn't do any good, but like, on the front end, this is where I want brokers to improve their communication with their carriers, because at the end of the day, if a driver's on tracking, all right, which that's like what everybody wants and requires. And, frankly, you might not want to hear this, but there are a lot of shippers who require their trucks to be on tracking. There's nothing I can do about that as a broker. You would have that exact same requirement as a carrier if you went and got set up with them. And if you told them you're not going on tracking, they would tell you to kick rocks. That being said, brokers, communication. If you can see the trucks running, why are we calling them for a location update in the middle of the day? We should have a communication plan broken down with these carriers when we're sourcing them on the front end. If you say you don't have time, plan your day out better. You got time. You should be breaking it down to a driver or a dispatcher and letting them know, hey, I need to talk to them at A, B, C, and D points throughout transit there. If it's a multi-day transit, let them know, hey, I just need a daily check-in. I just need to make sure the driver's doing all right, because if they're not having a good day and they're not going to drive, I would like to know about it early so I can let my customers know on the back end. But the biggest complaint that I get is the drivers are on tracking and then you still call them 7-8 times in a day. The only time you should be reaching out outside of that one day, like that one check call throughout transit, is if you see a truck stop for like 5 hours, 4 hours, that's above a normal fuel stop that's out there. But again, if you talk to the driver at the beginning of the day, ask him, hey, how far do you plan on driving today? Are you going to stop for fuel, anything like that? In between, do you know? Again, have those conversations on the front end. That takes a minute. Then if you do see a driver who stopped for 2 hours somewhere, you know what? Chances are they're getting fuel, they're getting lunch, whatever that looks like, about it. But again, like a lot of the breakdown in communication happens because we're failing to communicate. We're assuming, and then we slide those little fucking things in on the rate confirmation about, oh, if you don't do this, we're going to reduce your rate. No, fuck that. Be a real broker. All right. You want to build a carrier partnership up there, actually have a conversation with them on the front end. And guess what? If that person doesn't want to talk to you, fucking move on. There are plenty of trucks out on the road who are looking for quality brokers. I see brokers bitching all the time. Oh, there's no good carriers. No, there's not a lot of good brokers either at the end of the day. And if you want a solid carrier, have your shit in order. All right. If they ask you what the weight is of a shipment and you can't answer that, I wouldn't fucking haul your freight either. If they ask you what an appointment time is and you're like, I don't know, fuck you. I'm not going to haul your freight either. There are not that many work-in facilities that are out there. There are not that many of those things. And if you're not calling and verifying this information, give the freight to me. I'll fucking handle it. I'll make your customers more profitable and I'll make my carriers more profitable. And I know there are a lot of people who watch this show and listen to the show who would do the exact same thing. All right. You got to do your fucking job. You want to carry your partner? Do your fucking job as a broker. All right. We sit behind a computer all day long. If a driver comes to you about a request, it takes 2 seconds to Google it.
Talk that talk, Jolly. Talk that talk.
Man. It's just so frustrating because it's like, dude, like this is how I feed my family. Like this isn't a game to me, dude. Like this is my fucking livelihood right here. And I got to go through the same bullshit as the rest of you guys do. When I cold call and I prospect people, I get that same connotation that's out there of, oh, you're just a broker. Well, frankly, I'm going to fucking change that. Freight Coach Logistics is going to be the gold standard of fucking freight brokerage. All right. And if anybody who doubts, watch. All right. Watch it fucking happen. And I'm just going to lay it all out there. Like the fundamentals of this industry are never going to change. All right. That's the beauty of it. It's not that hard to pick up the phone and call people. All right. Verify appointment times. I mean, I know that I've worked with a lot of shippers in my career where they're not on site where these trucks are getting loaded. If the BOL comes over and has an appointment window and you've never picked up there before, double check that. Verify that information. Verify that shipment is 41,347 pounds, not 20,000 pounds. Verify that there's 26 pallets on that. Verify all that shit. It takes 3 seconds to do it. And you want to know what? You want to know who's going to appreciate that more than the driver? Your customer. All right. They're the ones who are paying this. So as a broker, I'm a bank. I'm a glorified bank. I'm a middleman, but that's my fucking job, is to verify that stuff.
But you know what, on top of that, Chris, the same energy that as a broker that you're going to have to call me as a carrier after I downloaded your tracking app, the same energy that you're going to have of calling me 15 times want to know where the update is. I need you to have that same energy and calling that shipper to make sure that when I get there, I'm not going to be delayed. I want you to let me know to make sure you're going to give me that same energy so I don't have to worry about pulling up. It needs to be like concierge service both ways. If there's going to be concierge service one way, I need you to have that same energy. You go ahead and call that shipper and see, I need to know that when I'm getting into, when I arrive on time, that I'm not going to be sitting there 4 or 5 hours waiting to get loaded. And that same energy that you have, the same practice that you can have there, it doesn't stop there. You're a bona fide agent for the shipper, right? But the thing is that you have more opportunity and you have more, you have so much more efficiency behind it if you follow it in and encapsulate that entire process and ensure that it is smooth for both ends. Because just as much as you want to take care of your customer, if you don't take care of me as a carrier, you ain't going to have a customer, because who's going to move your freight? You're not going to get behind the wheel of a truck and move your freight. And the thing is that a lot of them, a lot of brokers and, you know, carriers as well, there's room for improvement on both sides. But whatever energy that you got, that you're going to give that energy towards one side, you need to make sure that you provide that same energy on the other side too. And if not, then you just talking the talk. You ain't doing nothing.
Exactly. One A and one B of importance, carriers and customers to a broker. Doesn't matter. You can flip flop them in either direction. Yet, you know, however you try and spin it. But at the end of the day, if you don't have trucks to pick up your customers' freight, your technology is meaningless. Everything's fucking meaningless. All right. And if you can balance that, and it is possible, it's hard. And that's why nobody wants to do it. They would rather throw it up there on a load board. They'd rather disregard all of that stuff. And just like you want to shuffle carrier relationships every couple of months, you're indirectly shuffling your customer relationships too, because I'm not going to roll the dice. Because I know how hard it is to build books of business from nothing. I know how hard it is to build a business from literally fucking nothing. All right. And every customer is just as important to me. It doesn't matter if they move 1 shipment a month or 1,000 shipments in a month. They're just as important, just like my carriers. That it doesn't matter if a carrier moves 1 shipment for me a month or 1,000 shipments in a month. They are just as important, because I need both of them. We need to cohesively be able to work together as much as we possibly can. I know sunshine and gumdrops doesn't exist, but it's not. We make this job so much harder on ourselves as brokers than we need to. All right, we do. They're like the working thing, all that shit. Like, you can alleviate 95% of your problems if you are actually committed to doing that. And that just requires you to do your job, do what you're hired to do at the end of the day.
No, absolutely. And you got to watch out. I'm not going to say watch out, but there's going to be another element that's going to come into the supply chain that you're going to have to work out on building relationships too. Is, you know, is a good dispatch company. You know, we got good dispatch companies out there that we're going to be able to provide you a different level of service as well. So there's a lot of components to the supply chain. Things are changing this year. You know, things are changing right before our eyes, but we got to be prepared for the change. But, you know, to your point, and just kind of like, you know, as we close out this conversation, is ultimately, man, your communication skills and your relationship building is only going to take you as far as it takes you. And at the end of the day, if you can't do, you know, if you feel like you're too good, you know, to take the next steps and getting improving that relationship, you think that a lot of these brokers, you get on the phone, I mean, when they answer, you just call them, and then you can hear it in their voice, man. It sounds like they're just depressed to be here. That same energy is transcribed all the way through that freight transaction, man. It's just a long way to go, man. And I just think, like you said, man, is that you're going to either have to lead, follow, or get out of the way, because things are changing. And I know, Freight Coach, you know, you're changing on your side, and best believe that, you know, Innovative is changing things on this side as well. No,
that's exactly it. And if you're going to start slacking on the freight broker side of things, it's only a matter of time before I'm in your customer's ear. Mm-hmm. All right. It's only a matter of time before I am providing them with greater service than they've ever fucking experienced. Mm-hmm. Because it's about value. Same thing with carriers too. It's only a matter of time. But
value got to exceed the price, man. Value always exceeds price. Value
Amen.
always exceeds price.
Well, hey, that's it for today, you guys. That was a quick 30. And as always, Adam and I could go on for hours and hours, and that's why I'll have him back on here. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. The Freight Coach Morning Show. We are the top morning show in transportation. We'll be back tomorrow. Yeah, we will. Tomorrow's Wednesday. We will be back tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. We'll talk to you guys soon.